4, 3, 2, 1, and then Janet Jackson song.
Yep.
Hey y'all.
We are a part of the Rhythm Nation.
Rhythm Nation. Yeah, that's I don't know how that dance goes. It's nice to watch. Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
Do you have rhythm? Do you dance?
I
You know how to
do,
dance?
just not at that song.
I not that song specifically, but I'm just saying, do you dance? Do you know how to dance?
Yeah, I love to dance.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. I'm
I love
random
to
as
dance.
hell. But okay. But hey y'all.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Welcome back. We're starting. This is first of all, this is unpacking our shit with
Fee and
AK Jr.
mm-hmm.
Welcome. We are starting a new series today. We're calling it the.
Oh my God, what are
It's
we
a
calling it?
working title.
Okay.
It's between, hypocrisy in the Black church, something nice, or something more updated, like pulpit capping, you know.
Okay.
But I feel I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna figure it out before this actually airs. So it'll be a
Right.
whole different title, could be. But we're talking
Exactly.
about the Black church. We are talking about the breakdown of the Black church, and we're wondering how the breakdown of the Black church happened and why people aren't going into the Black church as they used to, or why people are leaving the church and why people are hesitant to go back. Now, we are going to be talking from two different perspectives. I myself was a church kid, was quote unquote church kid. Wasn't a pastor's kid, but I was a church kid. You know, my family was very heavily involved in the church. We were in church 3 to 4 days a week. Kids choir, Bible study, Bible school, Bible competitions, all that,
All that.
all that shit. Okay.
All that.
And Fee, you want to tell us your background about the church?
I ain't go to church. Period. I was not raised in the church. I know it sounds oxymoronic to be Black and not raised in the church, but I was not raised in the church. Not only was I not raised in the church, meaning like my mom and I did not go to church, but my grandmother, my 90-year-old grandmother, was not raised in church. My 90-year-old grandmother was not. I don't know if that's because her mom died when she was 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? And she was raised by brothers and her dad, but we were not forced to go to church. So yeah, as I became, well, yeah, as I got like older, I would say maybe around like 8, between 8 up until, through high school and all of that, all of my friends grew up in the church. So I'm looking like, we got to do what on Sunday? Like, I got to get up for what? I got to put on a dress for what? I'm like, nah, I don't want to spend the night over your house. I would not spend the night over friend's house because I didn't want to go to church on Sunday because it's like, I don't. So, but of course I did go. But yeah, I wasn't raised to go to church. So yeah.
So what is your view of it? Before we get started, what is your view of that? I've always been curious about somebody who didn't go to church all the time, what their view of it was. Because I'm telling you right now, you're probably right.
I didn't I didn't like church. So initially it was more so because I didn't like having to get up early and then sit somewhere for 7 hours. I just had a problem with that. So it was we got to get there at 8 o'clock and then we're not getting out till 2. So that's the lens I was looking at it from. But it just seemed like judgy and cultish and cliquish to me and someone. So it's like I really couldn't articulate that or really put that into words when I was younger. But looking around at people, I was just like, I don't belong. I never felt like I belonged. And then what let me see if I can even remember basically then as I got older and started really like paying attention to things, and I think I had a certain like I looked at people that went to church. I felt like they should, I guess, behave a certain way because
Mm-hmm.
it's as if they're supposed to act differently than us heathens, right? And what I was noticing
Right.
was that a lot of the people who were going to church were still acting like me, like a heathen. You know what I mean? This is me being
Right.
playful with it, but because I don't really, I say like I don't
No,
really
but
take
you're right.
like
You're right.
I take life seriously, but these things I can play on it. It's like I don't really necessarily feel like I'm a heathen, but for those, you know how they wouldn't
I know
label
what you're saying. And there's
those.
a lot of sanctified heathens out there.
So when I would see people in church and it's like, oh, they're doing this and catching the Holy Ghost, then outside of the church, I would see them behaving in a different way. I'm like, now why do I need to go here if you're still acting this way? You're still doing the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. You know what I mean? So then it just became like it wasn't for me. And yeah, so that's the way I looked at it. I knew of so many people who were so judgy and saying, "Oh, this, and this," and it really was a big deal to me because, like, all of my in my 20s, when I did start experimenting and I started um, having relationships with women, like sexual, intimate relationships with women, and that's really like the whole. It's an abomination. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, really, like, for why? And then it's the whole read the Bible. I'm like, no, I ain't got time for all that. I can say that what people do in their what people are choosing to do in their lives in their bedrooms has nothing to do with none of y'all, with nobody. So I could never make the connection with why does it matter? Why, who cares? Now if I'm out here shooting, killing, stabbing, oh, that clearly is a problem. But
Mm-hmm.
if I want to sleep with somebody or be with somebody, am I being, why is that going to automatically send me to hell? So a lot of things I just didn't jive with before going through the whole lesbianism route for a while, into now. I just never felt like I belonged there. It just didn't, it never just really gelled with me, period.
I feel you.
Look, that's
I
it.
feel you on that. And there is a lot of judgment to that. But it's like it's weird because the same church lady that's passing judgment on lesbians is at her son's murder trial with a free Pookie T-shirt. Like so what
I really can't
sin
stand you.
are you really about to get behind? Like your son is out here raping and murdering people. You gonna make him a little fucking graffiti T-shirt, but you're worried about what somebody is doing in the privacy of their bedroom, which really isn't your business.
Really isn't.
But see, that's not what you're taught in church. Now, the function of the church in the Black community has changed dramatically. At first, it was there not just as a house of worship, but a house of organization. It was a
Mm,
house of community. It was where you could
yeah.
go to be safe, to feel safe. It was a place to congregate with people who were like you. And a lot of times, especially in the very, very early stages, it was a very large part of the civil rights movement. And me, to my mind, I feel like those types of church people were a lot more sophisticated than even we are now because they stood for something. They stood for a purpose. And I feel like now we kind of make a lot of excuses, like this whole, oh, let's just forget about it and come together type of shit. And that doesn't really work. And after the civil rights movement, the role of the Black church changed, and I don't feel like it adapted very well.
Okay.
It didn't. And I can say that as somebody who grew up in the church, they did not adapt very well as time went on and as society has moved on. Now, the whole society moving on and them not being able to catch up, a lot of that has to do with hypocrisy. We are in the age of information. We know so much more than what we did.
Yeah.
So it is a lot harder to fool people. It's a lot harder to lie to people. And what we're seeing a lot of is, or some of the older people like us, what we're seeing now, what we saw all of that time is how much hypocrisy is in the church. Just like
Mm-hmm.
you said, they're always preaching this certain thing, But then as soon as they leave that church, it's like going straight back to the fuck shit. You know what I'm saying? So literally, what was the purpose of you going? What was the purpose of going? And a lot of us saw our parents, our relatives, or, you know, friends. We all grew up seeing that, and I think we became really disillusioned. And as people became more vocal about what was going on, you know, it became more noticeable. It's like, oh, hypocrite, 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 hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's one thing to just be a hypocrite. It's another thing for that hypocrisy to cause damage. And that's exactly what it has done. Because now you're getting to the point where it's just like you might as well be in politics because you're just lying to people as a profession.
I got you.
And it's steered away from, you know, talking about God to very selfish topics. You know what I'm saying? We ignored a lot of shit that went down in the church. We upheld a lot of things that we really don't need to, that's so unbelievably psychologically damaging. And there's also a mentality that of the church, a part of the church mentality in the Black church that needs to die off. First thing I really want to address is how money driven a lot of Black churches are. And that's a very large part of the problem. It has become so much about what you're putting in that collection plate. And a lot of that started in the late 70s, early 80s with televangelists and things like that. And then all of a sudden, you know, and being an 80s kid, it's like I saw the progression of these Black churches trying to be a mega church. It happened in the church that I grew up in. You know what I'm saying? They got rid of a pastor that we had for decades who was a wonderfully humble man of God. You know what I'm saying? Like, he really, like Reverend Leroy Adams, he walked the walk and talked the talk. So it made what he was saying that much more believable because he was living that shit for real. I'm not going to say he was perfect, but I will say he always did his best to live by God's word, and it showed.
Thank you.
However, the nigga in a robe we got after that snagger tooth motherfucker had bitches fighting out in the parking lot because he's fucking everybody in the congregation. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's what I was going to say. So what I was going to say when you were talking about the wonderfully humble man of God, the first pastor. See, I think my thing, even with when I was younger, so how we always talk about how I can, excuse me, feel people's energy and how I'm highly in tune. See, what I do is I read people, not even purposefully. It just comes to me. So I would always be able to read people and energies, and I can always see beyond the mask. So that's what I think. Sometimes it can also be like a blessing and a curse. So while I'm sitting here not saying that, I'm not sitting up here, I'm only segueing into this, and I'm saying I'm not gonna cut you off, like for real, but I'm segueing into this because when you said nobody's perfect, I'm always looking at the mask people are wearing. Always. And I'm thinking about even all of my, that's what I do. I can read people. And I'm always saying like, oh yeah, three wives. Oops, not that. 3 kids, wife. And I'm saying in modern day times, I'll be like, that same person is in my inbox. That same person is in somebody. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even know why my brain is wired that way, because I guess that's why I'm always talking about like shadow work and all of that stuff. And that's why I'm amazed by that and talking about like archetypes, because I just really feel like so many people wear masks. So that's why I kind of look at everything from a, oh yeah, you're doing all of this. Oh, you have your wife and beautiful. And then on this side, so even though you say he walked the walk, talk the talk, I'm the one that's just like, well, did he? Did he really?
I think
so
I think
people
what
who
helped me draw that conclusion is We had no idea he did as much as he did in the community until he died. And then you read his obituary and you see all of the stuff that he did. And we had no idea because he wasn't loud about it. He was just, this is what needs to get done. People need to get help. Let's go out and do it. And he did it without all the fanfare, or like how they do now with the humble bragging, recording themselves, doing all this good deeds and shit. There are so many of his good deeds that went unnoticed until he died. And
Okay.
I remember when he died, there was actually a line to go pay their last respects to him. There was like blocks of lines. We had no idea he had impacted that many people until he died.
And that's legit.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Is it's always important who people are. Who are you when nobody's looking?
Right.
Who are you when you think nobody's looking?
That part. And that's the part I'm talking about. Exactly. That's the part.
And a lot of times in the church, we kind of harp so much on how we present ourselves and appearance, and a lot of things get done for show. Now that breeds a lot of narcissism, and unfortunately, the whole money grab of the situation of the Black church now has bred a lot of narcissists. Because people aren't becoming pastors to really teach people about God. They're there because they see the money, that it is tax free. They see a whole group of people willing to give them a shit ton of money that he does not have to claim on taxes, that they can do whatever the fuck they want with. And every time they need more money, they could just say, hey, congregation, you give me this, you'll be blessed. And he's got all these poor people giving up all of their money. And I think this goes into what we were talking about before with these, mega preachers. They have these huge churches in these extremely poor areas. And it's just like, how is everybody in your congregation, or like 90 or 80% of your congregation poor as shit, and you're living in a town an hour away in a fucking mansion? That does not compute. Where is the money going? Bam, it's going in their pockets. So it's like the church now is, and this isn't just in Black churches, this church, period. Church is a business now.
Right. So my question is, though, too, okay. So, because we talked about this in one of my, when I had this business coach. So, because there is this belief, like you're saying, that the pastors are putting the monies in their pocket. So do you not believe that they should be paid at all? Because they're being of service. When you're being of service, are we not to be paid for that?
Yeah, I don't mind a pastor being paid. The problem is the pay should not exceed what is going into the church. You know what I'm saying?
Should not exceed what's going into the church. Okay.
Like, you shouldn't be making more money as a pastor than the church is making itself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're not opposed to them getting paid, just the amount in which they're getting paid.
I'm opposed to them cutting themselves checks for Rolls Royce. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Like, you see these big churches, these big quote unquote mega churches, and sometimes they're in these dilapidated neighborhoods. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing for this neighborhood? Because that is what the Black church was there for. It wasn't just to uphold some pastor. It was to literally help our community, because nobody else was going to do it.
Gotcha.
Government said, fuck you. Society at large, aka white people, saying, fuck you, pull yourselves up by your own bootstraps. But then they go and burn down our boot factory. But hey, that's another story for another day. Tulsa,
not the burner of the boot.
Street. Go look it up. So it's becoming a more difficult for people to trust the church.
Black Wall Street don't. Yeah. That's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Topic for another day.
Black Wall. Yes.
But
right. So
all of that is part of what scares people off from the church, because it's like, you can't lie to nobody no more. It's like, we see all this. We find out about all the extracurriculars of the pastor or the deacon or the people in the church, because a lot of people are chasing after those titles. They want the title. And sometimes it's not just the money, it's having that title and having that social presence, or having that social status in the community. You know what I mean? There's a lot of narcissists who just get off on that, who get off on the status. And unfortunately, what that did is it hid a lot of emotional abuse. So much emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional manipulation goes on in the church, and it just gets covered up and glossed over. And sometimes it gets lost in somebody's status. Oh, they never seem like the type. Oh, they wouldn't do that. But we're learning more and more that these people are so willing to lie, to stay, to not be found out, you know what I'm saying? To cover up all of the nasty, raggedy shit that goes on behind closed doors in these churches. And church became a really good way for a narcissist to hide. It became a really good place to hide their intentions, to hide all of the fuck shit that they want to do. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people use the church for that. It's hard to address things in the church because everybody covers it up. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want anybody to speak ill of the church. See, the church, it's almost like the entity of the building of the church and the entity of the church and the pastor is more important than actually following God's word. Because there's so many things not of God going on in that church that's just being covered up. You know what I'm saying? They're professional cover up artists. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
To hide all of that shit. But then they wonder why people don't want to come back. It's like, nah, because you're just here to show up, look nice, look cute, and then to go home and to abuse me verbally, physically, sexually. And then you want to shame me, saying that I shouldn't have done X, Y, and Z to deserve that. Because they'll always derive something, biblical to justify the abuse.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And that's the scariest part of the Black church is that they will use that to justify abuse. And we've justified way too much abuse. We've hidden way too much abuse. And there's the thing, the older generation, they've lied so much. You know what I'm saying? They've lied so much. They got to hide so much. You know what I'm saying? And they're really in denial of how much damage that has done, how much that has scared people off. Because why the fuck am I going to a place where everybody is a lying piece of shit? Why am I going to go there? Because everybody there is fronting. Why am I going to go there? Because like you said, the pastor's in my fucking DMs and his wife is sitting there in the front row with their 3 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Why am I here? Why am I here? Because the only thing you're going to teach me is how horrible I am. That's all you're going to do. And they have all these standards they want you to face. But it's like, do you really want me to have those standards? Or do you just want me to look like I have those standards to make you feel better, to make you feel more comfortable? You know what I'm saying? A lot of this ain't got shit to do with God or what God wants us to do. Ain't got shit to do with it. So if the Black church really wants to rectify their relationship with the community, they're gonna have to come to grips with a lot of shit they don't want to talk about. Because a lot of the reasons we don't talk about a lot of things is derived from, the culture of the Black church. Go pray about it. Go talk to somebody. You don't go spreading your family business. Just talk. Right. You gotta pray it away. You know what I'm saying? We've always been taught that we gotta pray something away, and it's just like prayer without works don't work. So just telling me to go pray about it is not helping. Mm-hmm. But again, like we talked about before, a lot of these secrets, a lot of the stuff that people want to hide is to cover up somebody's failure.
That part.
And the older generation is not good at admitting that they failed, and they feel like they don't have to because they were failed so many times and I didn't complain. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They frame bringing up all of these things, they frame it as, just acting out, being over dramatic, doing too much, all that shit. They try to demean it so much so they don't have to face what's wrong. They don't want to admit that they've allowed all these wolves in sheep's clothing into the pulpit, the congregation, the deacons and deaconesses, you know what I'm saying? Usher board, because humans are still human.
That's true.
Humans still going to church just like they do into work and start power tripping. You ever seen somebody from the usher board do a power trip? That shit's so fucking weird and dumb.
Listen.
Like, bitch, it's a pew. Move.
I'm done.
There's 8 spaces
I'm
over
done.
here. I'm gonna sit the fuck down where I want to move.
Not
You know what I mean?
bitch, it's a pew.
It's little
Bitch, it's a
petty
pew.
shit like that.
Hello, hence why I'm a heathen. So is that so? Did you look? Did you hear it?
What? What's that say?
This is the timer.
Oh, what is that?
The timer.
Oh, okay. So
You so funny.
there is so much to say. I'm
That's
gonna try to
exactly.
wrap this up quickly. But
It
there's
is a lot.
so much to talk about when it comes to the Black church and the things that are problematic and the things that we have to fix. And the next episode, we're going to talk about what we can do about it. You know, because I want to make sure that we're not just talking about the problem. I want to make sure we're addressing how we can fix it. But a lot of this stuff has to be fixed if you just be honest with yourself. And a lot of folks from the church have a hard time doing that. You know,
not just the church, just people. Period.
To shame. Yeah, they don't want to introduce somebody to Jesus. They want to shame and guilt somebody into Jesus, and that's a fraudulent ass relationship. If you got to guilt and shame somebody into the church, that's a fraudulent ass relationship. It really is. Because that's not how any of that works. You know. But it also goes into how the church treats women, how we shame women into silence, and to, you know, being more accommodating to men and everybody around them, you know, and we don't really have a lot of, you know, power, you know what I'm saying, in those types of settings. So that's an additional problem. That's the only reason why that punk ass, dumb ass bitch, Derek, what was his name? That little Jackson fool with his white fucking bonnet, that whack ass helmet. Listen, somebody need to go get her, okay? She's in the fucking sunken place and is down at the Baptist church. Somebody need to go on and get her about the church basement, because that's where the fuck they got her mentally. But there's a reason it happens a lot. You know, stone cold liar, talking to everybody about being faithful and shit like that, and, you know, being, you know, of God. Meanwhile, you fucking this bitch, this one had an abortion, that one, you know, all this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Because people don't confront themselves. People don't confront themselves in their shadows. Hello.
Yeah, nobody wants to take accountability. That's the biggest problem. They make every excuse to avoid, specifically for men. They make every excuse for a man to not have to take accountability. It's all the devil's fault, or it's all the other woman's fault, or it's all the wife's fault, because maybe you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing, blah, 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 blah.
Listen,
you know
whatever. Ain't my fault.
It's never the man's fault. Mm-mm. That's a problem. They don't want to understand just how sexist they are, too. There's so much going on.
It's so much. It's so much. That's why I'm just like, we can talk about stuff for days. For real. Because, because you didn't even, it's so much to tackle, like you said, with the church. And it's when you break it down as far as, especially when you talk about silencing women and all of that, what you know, that will be, especially that's going to make my ears perk up, because of how I am about using your voice and women and empowerment. Mm-hmm. And use, exactly, because that can be.
They use the Bible to silence people.
Innately why it's like I never jive with me, because I don't, anything that's about the oppression of women, it's like I ain't feeling it.
Oh, no. We're not going to talk about how the Vatican literally changed the wording in the fucking Bible and didn't nobody say shit. That verse that everybody tries to use against homosexuality and whatnot, that was meant for pedophiles. They weren't talking about homosexuals. They were talking about pedophiles. And who are 98% of pedophiles?
The pedophiles.
Fucking heterosexuals. That ain't got shit to do with gay people. But again, that's how denial works. But they literally wrote lies in the Bible, and don't nobody want to address that shit. The Vatican has too much fucking power. It's fuck the Vatican over here. They've caused way too much damage. There ain't shit of God except the cross over there. That's it. I don't trust nothing over there. See? I don't like the way they worship the Pope as a fucking God. That's weird. You kissing this fucker's hand? Like, what the fuck?
That part.
Weird. I don't worship is that. I ain't kissing no motherfucker hand. I don't know where your hand been, Pope. I'm sorry. I don't know where
your hand been, Pope. Listen, come back and listen to us next week, please. Okay. Come see us next week. please, so you can get
Come see us
all of
next week
this,
where we address,
all of this unpacking,
yes,
all of the emotions, all of the feelings. You get all of it. You're gonna get it all up in here.
every piece. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about in the next episode what we can do to change the culture of the Black church, so where people are coming back into the church. You know what I mean? Because I do think believing in a higher power is important, because God has a million different names. I don't care what you call God. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's a higher power. You know what I'm saying? And I do think having faith is really, really important. But having faith is important no matter who you are. Black,
Absolutely.
white, gay, straight. Having faith is important. But I understand what drives these people away from the church. Like, I can never be mad at an atheist for real, because if you ever listen to an atheist as to why they became an atheist, it's something fucked up some church person did.
I never
That's our
heard
fault.
anything about atheists on why they became atheists.
It's
That's interesting.
literally the fault of the church, because there's so much hypocrisy and bullshit going on within that, and they don't want to correct that. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they're pushing people away, and that's really sad, because I think having a relationship with God is a really beautiful thing, but it's also a very personal thing, and I think it's something that can't be forced on somebody, because
Absolutely.
that's not a real relationship. The way we do things in the Black church has to change, and if we want the church to be as important as it used to be, if we want the church to have that type of importance, then there's a lot of things that we need to do to change how we need to change how we church, basically.
I like
And
that.
that's what we'll talk
Change how
about
we church
next
in the
episode.
next segment.
We
Yep.
need to change how we church. Well,
Thank
we
y'all
thank y'all
for
for stopping
watching,
by.
listening, all of that.
We gonna get into some shit. I can't wait to
Woo.
hear y'all's opinions. Oh, also, please email us. Let us know what type of things that you want to hear us talk about. What kind of stuff is on your mind. Also, every week we're gonna highlight a new, not a new, but a Black psychiatrist that was really groundbreaking in Black psychology and the psychology of Black people in the community. So for the next 10 weeks, every week, we're going to highlight somebody that's really, really important to this work. And I'm really excited for y'all to learn about it and to learn that, hey, this ain't just for white folks. We need this the most. Actually, we need it more than anybody, to be
Absolutely.
honest, if I'm being. So definitely come check us out next Sunday. Check out these the history psychiatrists, Black psychiatrists, and get y'all asses to some therapy. Shit. And we'll
Period.
see y'all next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. God bless now. God bless you.
Y'all come back
Hey.
now. You hear?
You better come back. Ooh, don't threaten the audience, Karen. All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye.